no exist. Take a perk and talk it and see. Money swollen like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who take on my hate. Let me better put on the road I just went. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the third part of What If Naruto Enters Monster Musume, Everyday Life with Monster Girls. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of DJ Unk 101 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Heh, Naruto shook his head. You're pretty amazing. I don't suppose you'd consider moving in here. Her calming aura could potentially solve a lot of issues. Yeah, it even affects Kaguya. That's pretty impressive. Kurama agreed. Oh my, Tio blushed shyly. You're too kind. Hey, Smith pushed up her glasses and pulled a gun from her suit. What do you think you're doing? Naruto blinked. Trying to steal Tio. Do you know how much harder my job would be without her to keep the rest of those knuckleheads in line? She fired several tranquilizer darts at Naruto. Stop trying to increase my workload. Wow, you'll do anything to get out of doing more work, huh? Naruto shook his head. Smith-san works very strong, most of the time. Tio smiled. I'm glad she's our liaison officer. Ah, thanks Tio, Smith smiled. You must be some sort of angel to see the good in Ms. Smith. Hey, stop that. Naruto cried out as Smith emptied the last of the tranquilizer darts into Naruto. I'll stop when you stop trying to stuck Tio from my task force. Smith pulled the trigger until the gun clicked empty. How are you still conscious? Smith checked the cartridge. I must have put enough tranq darts into you to knock out a full-grown elephant. Well, I feel fine. Naruto blinked as the darts failed to have any effect thanks to Kurama. Maybe the darts were defective. Smith glanced at her gun. Are you 100% sure you're human? She joked. Pretty sure I am. Naruto plucked the darts from his chest and arms. Not that I see why it matters. Even if I was a liminal it wouldn't make much difference, right? Well, you say that, Ms. Smith smiled. You see, the law says that humans cannot harm liminals and vice versa. The law clearly states this in article. Chi-Chi started. We don't need to hear the exact wording, you DMN copper. Toph grumbled. Chi-Chi did mention that when Toph first attacked. Naruto nodded. You see, the definition of harm is incredibly vague in the document, and it also covers SXL contact. What? Naruto blinked. A human cannot have SEC with a liminal, nor any other sort of deeply NTM physical contact. Even kissing? Naruto blinked. What happens if the rules are broken? Oh, got your eye on one of your lovely guests. Smith smirked. Basically, the offender would be sent to jail and the exchange student sent back to their own country in disgrace. That's bullshit. Naruto slammed his clenched fist on the table. I don't get it. Toph smirked. But you're clearly fired up, boss. Let's go smash some skulls. If two people fall in love, two adults who are perfectly capable of making their own decisions, what does it matter what species they are? Naruto glared at Smith. Huh, she chuckled. Wasn't expecting you to get so fired up. I was only joking about you having a soft spot for one of the girls, but now I am actually starting to wonder. It's not like that, Naruto shook his head. Not that I'm saying the girls aren't attractive. I mean, Chi-Chi is an attractive woman, and Toph is too, if you like that kind of girl. I'm flattered, but in all honesty I'd rather fight you than have a CC with you. Toph remarked bluntly. As aforementioned, it would be improper for any relationship to bloom between us other than that of a handler and his guest. Chi-Chi seemed a little flustered. Though I will admit it is odd to hear a human call one of my people attractive. Well, Smith chuckled. It seems I have nothing to worry about then. I'd best be headed back to the office to finalize all of the paperwork for the transfer. Good luck, Smith chuckled as Naruto helped Tio carry her armor to the transport. I guess I'll see you soon. I'd be surprised if you weren't here for breakfast. Naruto deadpanned. Well, if you are offering. I wasn't, not that I'm expecting that to stop you. Naruto shook his head. Here you go. Tio lifted a small and tattered sports bag out of the back of the van. What the hell is this? Naruto scowled. It's Nectarfree's personal effects. Tio happily handed the bag to Naruto. Personal effects. Naruto glanced at the bag that had clearly seen better days. Like her clothes and stuff. I think it's mostly chest bindings and her bakken. Tio explained. She doesn't have a change of clothes. Naruto blinked. I mean, I don't either, but I exactly wasn't expecting to end up here. You only have one outfit? Tio clapped her hands together. You should go on a shopping trip. That reminds me, our supplies are running a little low. He glanced at Ms. Smith, who was talking to the driver. Could you do something about that? Oh. Smith blinked. Well, I guess I can issue you a permit to go into the city. Permit? You're technically hosting dangerous liminals, so you need special permission to go into an urban area with them. Smith frowned. But the permit is a pain to sort out. I could just take you and Kaguya shopping since you don't need permit for her. I'll see what I can do, Smith waved dismissively. Thanks, Naruto stepped back and watched them get into the van and drive away. Another day over and done with. Strong to believe this is only the second day in this world, isn't it? Yeah. Handler-san, Chi-Chi approached him. If it is okay, I shall retire for the night. Of course, Naruto smiled at her. You don't need to ask me permission. Plus you can just call me Naruto, you know. That would not be showing you the respect you are due, as per article. I get it, Naruto shook his head. I guess I could order you to call me Naruto, but if you don't want to I won't force it. Good night. He nodded to Chi-Chi who made her way to her room. So where am I sleeping, boss? Toph asked as Naruto walked back into the kitchen. Oh right, Naruto frowned. Well, there's only the one bedroom that I recently finished. I was going to take it myself, but I guess it wouldn't hurt to let Toph have it. If you keep this up you'll fill up all the rooms in this place and still not have a bedroom. Still. At least it'll be lively. That's one way of looking at it, I suppose. Kurama chuckled. Ha, Toph walked into the indicated room. A little bare, isn't it, boss? Well, feel free to personalize it. Ha, Toph dived on the bed. DMN, I missed a proper bed. Didn't you have one back at your old host's house? Nah, I didn't even have a futon, just some pillows and a blanket. Toph scowled. Never mind my own room. Here, Naruto handed over the sports bag. Tio said these are your effects. Awesome, Toph snatched the bag and tossed its contents over the floor into a heap. There were several scuffed hats and trousers as well as several rolls of bandages. Found it. Toph declared happily as she pulled a bakken from the mess and swung it through the air a few times. Good night, Naruto chuckled as he shook his head. I'll see you in the morning. Sure, boss. Toph tossed the empty bag on top of her pile of clothes as Naruto left the room. On his way back towards the kitchen, he paused slightly outside Kaguya's door. Maybe I should say something to her. Like what? Air. I don't know. Maybe ask her if she is alright. Knowing her, she'd probably take that as you pitying her and would only get even more upset with you. I'd advise leaving her alone to cool down a little. Okay. Naruto carried on walking down the hallway, unaware of Kagaya's own turmoil in her room. Part of her was ashamed of her actions. As a noble she should have behaved with more dignity rather than leave the room like some sort of sullen child. She wasn't even entirely sure why she had left. She rolled over in her bed as she heard Naruto walk downstairs. Once again he relegates himself to the kitchen and gives up a warm bed to some freeloader. Kagaya frowned. He always puts others ahead of himself, huh? What an idiot. She grumbled to the small group of bunnies laid atop of the duvet. Is that why he annoys me so much? She pondered. Is it because he always acts like some sort of saint when I know the truth? That he's selfish and puts his own desires before the peace of the world we once knew? Or maybe he is aware of this and this kindness of his is purely an attempt to redeem himself. One of the rabbits' nose twitched. Or maybe he truly thinks he was doing what was best. I suppose what's done is done and he is suffering as well as I. Certainly not to my degree, though, she muttered darkly as she looked at her empty kimono sleeve. We will see what the morning brings, Kagaya looked out of the window. And I will apologize. It is my duty as a noble to shape him into a better person. She decided as she finally settled down in her bed. It won't be easy, she mumbled sleepily. But nothing worth doing ever is. Chi-Chi's room. Kagaya was not the only one who was deep in thought. As Chi-Chi laid in her hammock, wearing a long shirt that was specially designed to cover everything that modesty demanded with her book on famous police incidents in hand, she found herself unable to focus on the gangland slaying of police officers in Okinawa during 1990. Her mind was too busy thinking over Naruto's earlier words. A human finding an arachne attractive. Chi-Chi frowned softly. I never thought I would hear that. I mean, maybe some of us are attractive to humans on our top half but our abdomen and legs aren't really that appealing to humans. She glanced at her arachnid half. But Handler-san didn't even mention them. Maybe there are some humans who can see past physical appearances. Chi-Chi found herself smiling softly. This development filled her with hope. If there are more people that can see me for me, then maybe, just maybe, this exchange program will help others see liminals for who they are, not what they are. Chi-Chi put the book neatly on her table. There was a crashing noise from next door, where Chi-Chi assumed Toph was staying. Maybe I'm just as guilty though. I haven't exactly tried to get along with Toph. For Handler-san's sake I'd best make peace with her. Chi-Chi clambered out of her hammock and made her way towards the room that she had heard Naruto enter with Toph and knocked politely. What is it? Toph yelled. It's Chi-Chi, she took a deep breath. I wish to apologize for my earlier behavior. Fine, come in then, Toph grumbled. I just wanted to say. Chi-Chi froze. What happened here? Did someone break into this room before you moved in? Toph looked around. What's the issue? Your room is a bomb site. There were clothes strewn everywhere. All of her drawers were open, some even completely ripped out of the cabinet, and there were slash marks on the wallpaper. It looks alright to me. Toph frowned. Added a bit of character to the room while I was training, I guess, but nothing major. You did this? You've barely been in this room 12 minutes. Chi-Chi blinked. How can you live in such a messy room? Quite easily, Toph dived onto her bed. Chi-Chi opened her mouth but found herself lost for words. Weren't you going to apologize? Toph prompted. I am sorry for acting hostile earlier. Chi-Chi forced out. But I would recommend cleaning this room. Like hell I will, Toph snorted. It's my room and the boss said I am free to personalize it how I like. But if you keep it like this you'll attract rodents and then it becomes everyone's problem. More like everyone else's problem, Toph remarked. I wouldn't mind a rat pet. I am leaving before I say something I might regret. Chi-Chi turned to leave the room. Whatever you say, Copper. Toph threw her hat on the floor and tossed her jacket to one side where it fell in a crumpled heap. It took all of Chi-Chi's self-control to not react and just leave the bomb site and return to her pristine room. It would be a challenge to deal with Toph, but she remembered what Naruto said earlier. This would be good practice for her future career as a policewoman. Picking up a book marked Interacting with the Public, an officer's guidebook, Chi-Chi clambered back into her bed and read until she drifted to sleep, her dreams full of delinquent toads committing crimes as she desperately tried to arrest them all. Tio's apartment. I'm home. Tio called out as she entered her room, smiling as she saw her huge collection of cute plush animals waiting for her on her large pink bed. As would be expected from a girl who loved girly things, her room was bright pink, with her bed looking like that of a princess, complete with frilly curtains surrounding it. She walked over to her phone to see a flashing red light. Oh. I wonder who called. She picked it up and checked her missed calls. Oh, it was someone in the office. She pressed redial and laid back on her bed, hugging the nearest plush animal to her generous chest as she waited for a voice on the other end of the line. About DMN time. Zambina's frustrated voice sounded over the phone. Don't you answer your mobile. This is my home phone. Tio pointed out. Huh. Ah, damn it. Smith-san must have entered your work number under a different one, so I couldn't get in contact with you until you finished your mission. Zambina groaned. Is something wrong? Yeah. I'm stuck in the office at freaking 8:30. Zambina whined. Smith-san left all her paperwork for us to do. Us? That's right, Manako and Doppel are here as well. Zambina grumbled. I'll bet while we were working our asses off you were out having fun, weren't you? I'll bet you got into a massive fight. Well, there was a fight. Tio tilted her head. There was? DMN it, how do I always miss the fun jobs? Maybe because Smith-san is fed up with filing requisition forms whenever your armor gets shot to high hell. Doppel's voice could be heard through the phone line. That's no excuse. Zambina whined. I'll bet you enjoyed yourself, didn't you? Getting to fight that toad type again. There were cute bunnies. Tio hugged the plush animal to her chest. I got to hug some. Zambina sounded confused. There was a fight and you were too busy hugging bunny rabbits. What? No, I'm not done talking. Give me the phone back. Hello. Manako's soft voice replaced Zambina's, although she could be heard complaining loudly in the background. Hi. Tio rolled over on the bed. Hello, Manako responded quietly. Hi. Zambina-chan was wondering what else happened on the mission. I'll bet she threw that transport at the toad type. Zambina could be heard in the background. Most definitely. Did you see the state it was in when it returned? Doppel's voice had a teasing edge to it. No, wait, how did you? Oh, you and Manako seemed so focused on your work, so I decided to take a brief stroll to stretch my legs. I saw it return, but unfortunately Smith-san wasn't in it. DMN it. Did you hear that? Manako asked over the phone. Geez, Tio pouted as she sat up on her bed. I didn't throw the transport. I didn't even throw a punch. Naruto-san returned and the fight just stopped. I was looking at the maps and wondering why it took so long. Manako asked. Were there a lot of difficulties? Not really, Tio smiled happily. We all had a meal together. It was pretty fun. There were these really cute little cakes that were delicious. Then we talked about clothes a little. Ah. I guess you wouldn't want me there. Manako went quiet. That's not true, Tio assured the shy Monoai. I mean. You always send me far away when you're fighting. That's because you're a sniper. Yeah. Zambina could be heard over the phone. That's why I keep telling you to saw the barrels off the end of the rifles and dual wield them. Then you can charge in with me and Tio. It would look so badass. I'd be spraying bullets everywhere, you'd be dropping big targets like they were nothing and Tio would throw a tank at someone. But my arms would fall off from the recoil. Manako weakly protested. Here, give me the phone. Doppel's voice became clearer. So you had a meal with this new handler, huh? That's right. He made it himself. Oh, he did, huh? Sounds like he was pulling out all the stops. What do you mean? Maybe he's a melons kind of guy. Doppel sounded amused. He was probably trying to stuck you. I don't think Naruto-san is that kind of person. Tio replied honestly. He seems to be a genuinely nice person. Oh. You know him that well, huh? Must have been a very NTMT meal. Geez, Tio puffed her cheeks out, not that Doppel could see it. It wasn't like that. There was Smith-san and the toad-type bullywug, and there was also a long legs-type arachne and, a kind of bunny type, I think. Oh, that'd be that Kagaya one, right? Doppel sounded somewhat disappointed that her teasing hadn't triggered any reactions worth noting. Right. Still, do you think that handler is cute? Cute? Tio tilted her head. I don't know. He's kind of handsome, I guess. Oh. Doppel sounded interested. So maybe you're the one who likes him then. Geez, this was the first time we spoke together. He didn't even know I was a girl until today. He seems nice enough, but I wouldn't say there are any feelings between us. How tragic. Doppel sighed dramatically. Goodbye, Doppel-chan. Tio sighed as she hung up and laid down on her bed, staring at ceiling, hugging the plush animal to her chest. Although he did ask me to live with him a few times. Maybe he does have a crush on me. I'll have to let him down gently. She nodded to herself before getting out of bed to get showered and ready for sleep. At Mon's office. Ah, she hung up. Doppel sighed as she handed the phone to Manako. Wait, did you tell her to get in here to help us? Zambina asked. Oh right. That's why we rang her in the first place, wasn't it? My bad. The three MON girls looked at the intimidating pile of paperwork. It appears she disconnected her phone. Manako frowned. Maybe she really didn't want to talk to me again. DMN it all. Zambina wailed. DMN that Smith for setting us up like this, and DMN that Tio for having a perfectly good reason for not being here. It isn't as if you can die from overworking, Doppel pointed out. It's me and Manako who should be complaining. Just because I can't die from exhaustion doesn't mean she can work me to the bone. I'm a zombie, not a skeleton, DMN it. Zambina slumped in her chair. Oh, I just got a message from Smith-san. Manako glanced at the phone. Is it, you guys can take tomorrow office, thanks? Zambina asked hopefully. Don't forget that the registration forms are to be submitted by midnight. Have fun, tongue sticking out. Manako read aloud. Smith. Zambina roared in anguish. The sun had yet to rise when Naruto was awoken by the sounds of chirping birds. With a tired yawn, he sat up on the couch he had slept on and wiped the sleep from his eyes. Lazily reaching out, he turned on a lamp that illuminated the kitchen where he had been sleeping. While not his first choice, he had given Toph the last of the furnished bedrooms, and now Naruto found himself without another room with a bed or access to more usable furniture. All he had was a beat-up couch that he had scavenged from one of the barns, but it would do until he got around to getting more furniture. He briefly pondered making some more himself, remembering doing so once or twice when on some D-rank missions, but that was a long time ago and he wasn't happy about cutting down any more trees in the forest for the raw materials. Besides, he had slept on less comfortable things than an old sofa. Morning. Kurama greeted him. What's the plan for today? I guess I'll try and finish restoring the farm. Naruto stretched out and headed over to the window, looking at the still dark landscape, the sun's light only just starting to illuminate the horizon. Then. I guess it's back to the drawing board. Drawing board? I still have to figure out a way to get back home. Naruto washed his face in the kitchen sink and shook himself up to shake off the urge to go back to sleep. Since summoning the toads didn't work, I'll have to approach this from another direction. Well, I suppose the easy way would be to find a way to unseal Kaguya so she gets her powers back, but... Yeah, Naruto nodded glumly. Even if I knew how to do that, there's no telling what Kaguya would do if she had her powers restored. The other way is to get her to teach you how to create a portal, if it's even possible for you to learn that. It's probably not. Naruto shook his head. Since Kaguya doesn't have any chakra coils, it isn't as if I could just transfer enough chakra to her to open a portal. True, without any coils, the chakra would just disperse randomly. It's one of the few advantages you have over her. For better or for worse, Kaguya has lost the ability to manipulate chakra as far as we can tell. Heck, even I'm in a better situation than her and I'm sealed inside you. You know you love me, fuzzball. Ha! It's too early to make me laugh like that brat. Naruto merely shook his head as he picked up his clothes and got dressed before heading outside, the chilly morning air refreshing him. I have so much work to do, Naruto mumbled as he took in the ruined fields and barns. It was clear the farm had been abandoned for some time, although that did lead Naruto to wonder why it was abandoned and how it came into the possession of Ms. Smith and the exchange program. Why bother if you're just going to leave? I already told you. Naruto shook his head as the sun slowly started to creep above the horizon. Even after I leave, the girls will still need a place to live. I might as well get this place up and running for them. That's so. Kurama chuckled to himself as Naruto watched the sun rising. Yosh! Naruto felt pumped up. I have a great feeling about today. Oh. Why's that? I don't know. I just feel like today's going to be good. He mentally replied before heading back into the house. He headed up to the bedrooms, stopped outside of Toph's room, and proceeded to knock on her door. Wah! A clearly sleepy voice mumbled. It's me. Naruto cleared his throat. Oh, come in. Toph mumbled and Naruto stepped into the room before freezing at the sight before him. What the hell? She's been in here less than 12 hours. How the hell has she turned the room into a disaster area? Still sure today's going to be a good day? Kurama seemed amused. Why yeah. Naruto shook off his shock and turned to the bed. The duvet was on the floor next to it and the bedsheet was screwed up in one corner while Toph was laid half on of the bed on her back with her left arm and leg off of the side. Her hat was on a bedpost, revealing her blonde hair was still tied up in a ponytail, although judging by the discoloration of her roots, blonde was probably not her natural color. All she was wearing were her trousers, with her modest chest open to the air, the bindings that had been covering her melons the day before thrown over the headboard. Naruto quickly averted his eyes. They appear to be a little bigger than Sakura-chan's now that they're unbound. Was this the good thing you were expecting? What? No, of course not. Naruto focused on a strange slash mark on the wall. Good morning. Morning. Toph rolled off of the bed and landed on a pile of clothes. Whatcha want, boss? She groggily asked. I guess I'm here to tell you I'm going to start on breakfast. He fidgeted as Toph struggled to her feet. K. She mumbled as she sat on the bed and reached out to grab her bindings, before falling face first back onto the bed. What do you want to? Oh, Naruto shook his head as Toph snored noisily. I guess I'll leave you to your dreams then. He started to leave, but figured he would tidy the room up a bit first. When he lifted up her jacket, he saw a small rat with a collar staring at him. He just dropped the coat and headed straight out of the room. Was that a... I didn't see anything that would ruin my mood. Naruto thought back stubbornly. Pretty sure that was a rat. I can't hear you. Naruto shut the door softly yet quickly, before moving on to the next room and knocking. "You may enter, Handler-san." "Good morning, Chi-Chi." Naruto opened the door to her room. In direct contrast to Toph's room, Chi-Chi's was still in the same pristine condition it had been when she first moved in. Only a few books on the desk and the clothes in the wardrobe gave any indication that the room was lived in. "Heh, working strong already." The Arachne was wearing a long nightshirt that fell below her humanoid waist and was designed to continue over her arachnid lower half. Currently she was at her desk reading a book and making notes. She brushed a strand of her blonde hair from her eyes and turned to face Naruto. "This is the amount of dedication expected of a police cadet," Chi-Chi stated. "The police don't accept just anybody into their ranks. A recruit must be a living embodiment of the law," she stated proudly. "Sounds tough," Naruto smiled. "But I guess nothing worth doing is easy." Indeed, Chi-Chi placed a bookmark in the book. "May I ask why you're here?" "Oh right." Naruto laughed. "Just letting you know that I'll be starting on breakfast soon." "I see," Chi-Chi nodded her head. "I thank you for the update. I shall be down momentarily. I just need to get changed." Of course, Naruto nodded as he left Chi-Chi's room. For her love of laws, she's a pretty easy person to get along with. At least she respects me. I suppose someone in this house has to. You know you respect me. I wouldn't say respect per se. Naruto chuckled as he knocked on the final door. After a few moments without a response he knocked a little harder, but heard nothing. "CRP. Do you think she left? She was in a bad mood last night. Would this be the good thing?" "Kurama." Naruto went to push open the door. Several minutes earlier. The sound of Naruto knocking on Toph's door roused Kaguya from her slumber. Groggily, she lifted herself out of her bed and, slowly stepped between the rabbits that were sleeping in her room, made her way to her kimono, which was hanging in her closet. The early morning chill was made all the more prominent by her lack of clothing, although seeing as she was currently only in possession of one outfit, Kaguya's NDTY was to be expected. It would be better to be naked when alone than scruffy when in the presence of her social lessers. That and the only male in the household that wasn't a rabbit, was her servant and therefore considered genderless to her. At least she tried to tell herself that, but the idea of Naruto assisting her dress and bathe her naked body caused her to feel disturbed in her stomach. Her room was tidy, besides the rabbits, although this was partially due to the fact that she had nothing to decorate the room with. It still didn't feel like a home to the former rabbit goddess. She heard Naruto's voice as he talked to someone but tuned him out. What is that infernal servant doing making such noise at this ungodly hour? She grumbled as she reached the closet and grabbed her kimono. Gazing at it sadly, she noticed it was beginning to get a little frayed and she doubted that anyone in the house had the expertise required to fix it. She paused, amused at the thought of fixing the dress rather than just get another, as she would have done previously. Maybe it was because this dress was the last reminder of her home, the land she had left, but it felt wrong to think about throwing it away. She looked at the fabric off the sleeve where the silver-haired one had struck her with his lightning technique. While the material was singed, it was mostly undamaged by the attack. Gently stroking the material, Kaguya decided to get dressed. She heard Naruto knock on the next door, the vulgar spiders if Kaguya remembered their room placements correctly, and slipped into her kimono, the slightly damaged sleeve hanging loose. Sitting on the bed she lifted the kimono to show her bare ankles as she slipped on her socks. I should really apologize to my servant for my behavior yesterday. It was unfitting of one of my breeding. Although as my servant, he would do well to pay better attention to my desires. He should have seen that I was annoyed and sought to remedy the situation although. Kaguya paused. Why was I so annoyed? Was it the ogre woman? Yes. That must have been it. Seeing the one who treated me so poorly being favored by my servant was bound to annoy me. Still I must remind myself that he is still new to the role of servant. He will learn. Kaguya was so deep in her own thoughts she was completely oblivious to Naruto's knocks and looked around in shock as Naruto walked into the room. "Ah, Kaguya, you're still here," Naruto let out a sigh of relief, although her response was unanticipated. What are you doing?" Kaguya stammered as she quickly dropped her kimono to cover her ankles. "You perverted servant!" she yelled as she slapped him. Despite her lack of power, her feminine fury caused Naruto to stagger backwards from the blow, although it was more from the shock of the unexpected blow than the pain he felt. "I'm sorry." Naruto blinked as Chi-Chi quickly ran into the room. "What's going on here?" She was holding a baton and some HNDCFFS and looking between the confused Naruto and the horrified Kaguya. "This pervert burst into my room while I was still in a state of undress. I literally walked in a few seconds earlier," Naruto blinked. "She is just as dressed now as she was then." He grumbled as he rubbed his cheek. "My calves were on display." Kaguya looked away, her pale cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "How old are you?" Chi-Chi blinked. "Legs haven't been considered unsuitable for public viewing for quite some time." "How fortunate for you," Kaguya growled. "I don't know why I'm surprised that such a vulgar creature such as yourself fails to understand common decency. How can you consider me vulgar when you've met that toad delinquent?" Chi-Chi frowned. "I don't get what you're bitching about." Toph growled as she walked into the room, still completely topless and balancing her bakken on her shoulder. "But it woke me up, so I'm gonna have to crack some skulls." "Are you trying to violate public decency laws?" Chi-Chi frowned at the half-naked toad. "Get bent copper," Toph spat. "This ain't the time I usually wake up. Besides, why should I be ashamed of my body? Only reason I wear those bindings is 'cause getting busted for NDTY would be a punk butt way to go down. I'm gonna go down like a boss." "How slothful," Kaguya remarked, still refusing to look in Toph's direction. "Although I suppose it is to be expected of a child. They never like waking up." "Child? You got a problem with me, eh?" "Oh, sorry," Kaguya didn't sound sorry at all. "I figured with that body you were a child." "Fight me!" Toph yelled as she started towards Kaguya but was held back by Naruto and Chi-Chi. "Oh dear, throwing a tantrum like a child." Kaguya sighed dramatically. "I'm gonna kill her. Let me at her." Toph flailed at Kaguya. "Alright, that's enough," Naruto scowled. "We're having breakfast in 10 minutes. You can go back to trying to kill each other later." "Very well," Kaguya frowned. "If you would care to leave the room so I can get dressed without your lecherous gaze upon my noble form." "Not that I can blame you, I suppose. I have always attracted such bewitched gazes. Consider it a privilege that you got a chance to see so much of me, as it will not happen again." "Why, thank you for the honor of seeing your ankle." Naruto deadpanned as he led Toph from the room. "I'm gonna kill her." Toph grumbled sleepily. "But first, back to sleep. You might as well stay awake now." Chi-Chi frowned as she followed Naruto. "Idleness is a rust that affects the metal of minds. I would imagine you would want to preserve what little mental capacity has not been beaten out of your skull. I'm gonna kill you after her." Toph complained as she led to the kitchen. "So, still sure today is going to be a good day?" Kurama snorted with laughter. Later on. Breakfast was a relatively tame affair, with Naruto and the girls sitting together at the table and not much being said. Kaguya was intently staring at her breakfast, a bowl of some strange flakes that were surprisingly tasty, especially when drenched in the milk. While there was little about this strange new world that endeared her, this strange cereal was definitely a good thing. Chi-Chi was calmly eating her meal, somewhat amused by the rate at which Kaguya was eating yet equally impressed that she was still carrying herself with a noble bearing. It must have been a skill drilled into her at a young age, Chi-Chi concluded. Toph was struggling to stay awake. She was leaning on her hand and swaying dangerously, her eyes struggling to keep themselves open. Her chest bindings were barely hanging on, Toph having been far too tired to put them on tightly. Maybe next time I'll just let Toph sleep in. If you didn't wake her up then Chi-Chi probably would have tried, and that would be the worst idea since someone walked into a pub in IWA and said, well, the Yondaime Hokage was a pretty neat guy. Has that ever happened? Possibly. Your species never struck me as particularly fluent in self-preservation. Your kind kept trying to defeat me after all. And they did eventually. Meh, I just felt bad for you humans, dying so ridiculously quick, so I let your first Hokage seal me and his wife. Your dad got lucky that I had something in my eye when he sealed my other half in you and me in him. You're a sore loser, aren't you? Naruto was snapped out of his mental conversation when Toph finally fell back to sleep and face planted on her plate, a slice of buttered toast stuck to her cheek as she woke back up. Truly you are lacking in any form of manners. Kaguya sighed sadly. What you lookin' at? She mumbled. You're really not a morning person, are you? Naruto shook his head. Nothing fun happens in the morning, Toph grumbled. All the awesome stuff happens at night, you know. Only crimes and bad decisions happen at night. Chi-Chi scowled. Like I said, that's when all the fun stuff happens. Toph smirked. Like having a few drinks and painting the town red with the BLD of any fools who try to mess with me. Alcohol leads to impaired judgment that limits your effectiveness. Chi-Chi frowned distastefully. Ha! I'd bet even you would be kind of fun when wasted, but I'm guessing that Government Goon didn't send any alcohol. Toph glanced at Naruto, who shrugged. First of all, referring to Agent Smith in such a way is in violation of Article. God damn it, it's too early to deal with your CRP. Toph headbutt the table. I just want to go back to bed, damn it. Secondly, Chi-Chi frowned. It's only just going on 6 o'clock, Anne. What, 6 a.m.? Toph groaned. What tyrannical but wakes people up this early? For my training regimen, I'm always awake by 5 a.m. Chi-Chi remarked. We didn't really use time that much when I ruled. I just rise with the sun and sleep when I feel tired. Kaguya shrugged. I'm a ninja, I'm just programmed to be wide awake whenever I wake up. I can't go back to sleep. Naruto looked at Toph, so I guess that makes you the odd one out. Really? Toph didn't look convinced. What kind of training do they send you on to be able to do that then? Well, it took Rasengan dumping a lot of cold water on me during our training trips to fully hammer that instinct into me. I know not what this Rasengan is, Kaguya remarked dryly. But I fear that its influence is responsible for so many of your failures as a servant. Such as trying to gaze upon my unguarded flesh. She blushed slightly, an image that actually caused Naruto some pause, so used to her angry gaze and otherwise indifferent body language. For a second Naruto remembered that she was a woman and not just the being that tried to trap his home in a never-ending genjutsu. Then she glared at him as if judging him, and the image was dispelled. Well. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. As much as I want to argue that I didn't intend to see your calves, and even so I have seen a lot more of women before in some of the places that Rasengan liked to visit. I can't deny that he was the kind of guy who would instill such behavior in someone. Well, fear not, Kaguya stood up. Be grateful that I, Kaguya, shall bestow upon you a basic understanding of etiquette as I promised yesterday before your clone ran out of chakra. Ran out of? Oh. Yes. Naruto nodded. That's totally what happened. Didn't that clone commit suicide with a steak knife? I didn't get why it used the knife since it could just dispel itself. As much as I would appreciate it, Naruto laughed weakly. I have a lot of work that needs to be done to get this house up to your noble standards. You are trying to flatter me, Kaguya narrowed her eyes before nodding. As a servant should. You are starting to develop the bare minimum skill set to be considered a poor servant. Thanks. Naruto turned to Chi-Chi. Do you have any plans today? I was planning to have a morning jog if you would provide a clone to SCRT me as per Article 21D subsection 2. We've been over this, Naruto chuckled. Remember the results of our bet? Ah, Chi-Chi nodded. Even so, I would appreciate the company on my jog. If you want company you could help me out in clearing the CRP from the fields. People seem to have been dumping all sorts of junk in there. It might not be jogging, but there may be some heavy lifting. Plus only you and Toph will know what most of this stuff is anyway. If you wish for my assistance I am obligated to. I'm not going to force you to help me, Naruto chuckled. I suppose I can jog later on. Chi-Chi nodded. Great. Naruto grinned. And Toph can fall asleep again. He sighed at the toad type who was once again sleeping on her breakfast. Her laziness shall be dealt with. Kaguya frowned. It occurs to me that despite my noble heritage, I have been lax in my work ethic. I thought nobles basically just sat around all day doing nothing but getting rich and fat. Naruto blinked. At least that's what most of the nobles I met did. He paused. Well, except maybe Koyuki, she did a lot of running around for films. Kaguya looked furious, even considering her usual angry look, then they were failing in their duties. A noble is gifted with wealth and a good quality of life, that is true, but they also are burdened with responsibility. It is a sacred duty to repay those who work in your name, to protect and guide them. Naruto looked impressed. Then why did you go all evil and try and enslave the entire world? Pardon? Chi-Chi blinked. Did I just hear something badass? Toph suddenly awoke, rubbing her breakfast from her face. I will not waste my time explaining something that would go straight over your head. Kaguya rubbed her forehead. Kaguya tried to brainwash everyone where we lived. Naruto summarized. Wait. You seriously tried that? Toph grinned. How? Chi-Chi frowned. As I said, I will not waste my time explaining something that would go straight over your head. Kaguya repeated herself. Let's just say the place I am from. It is not a peaceful one. I was so tired of seeing those I was sworn to protect killing each other over senseless things. My son's foolish attempts to make things better only made matters worse. Oh. So that's why you put up with it. Chi-Chi's eyes widened with realization. Naruto looked confused. Your mother and son. What? Naruto and Kaguya yelled in denial. You think this ill-bred rat is from womb? Kaguya looked part horrified, part enraged. You think something as awesome as me came from the bunny hag? Naruto merely looked confused. Oh, I was wrong, Chi-Chi coughed awkwardly. I apologize if my remarks caused any offense. Technically speaking you are a descendant of her grandson, so. She kind of is your great-great-great-great-great dash. I get it, Kurama. Great-great-great dash. You're not going to stop, are you? Naruto sighed as Kurama continued. Getting back to my story, lest the vulgar spider wishes to cast any further aspersions on my character, she glared at Chi-Chi who bowed her head and muttered another apology. Where was I? Oh yes, my son. Hagoromo. I always thought I was a good mother. I made sure they never wanted for anything. They? Chi-Chi interrupted. My two sons, Hagoromo and Hamura, Kaguya sighed wistfully, a sad smile on her face. It was not easy, balancing my duties against raising my children, but I did my best. Her face darkened suddenly. But clearly somewhere I went wrong, and Hagoromo. He rebelled against me. She closed her eyes. He used the very gift I had given him to try and ruin my plan to protect everyone. So as a good mother does, when a child cannot play with a toy sensibly, you take it away from them. She opened her eyes. But he resisted. And ultimately he locked me away, dooming the world to fall into eternal war. The world? Toph snorted, being a tad dramatic, aren't ya? She means where we came from, Naruto explained, not wanting to go into the whole traveling between dimensions thing. But I had a backup plan that saw me released from my confinement and free to save the world again. But once more, I was denied. She glared at Naruto. But this time, rather than be sealed away, I was exiled and stripped of my power, amongst other things. She touched the empty sleeve on her kimono. If it counts for anything, I was trying to seal you rather than this, Naruto offered. I didn't want to get exiled as well. Oh, so that's why you are so hostile to one another, Chi-Chi nodded. But I don't understand why you would oppose her from saving the world. Because she wasn't, at least not in the right way. Naruto shook his head. She basically wanted to trap everyone in a never-ending dream by using, well, I guess when I called it brainwashing I wasn't too far from the truth. It was a powerful genjutsu. Genjutsu? Chi-Chi frowned. What's that? Basically a ninja illusion. Naruto ignored Kagaya's snort of disapproval. Can you do that? Toph frowned. I can make thousands of solid clones of myself, yet you have difficulty believing she could put you in a never-ending dream? Point taken, Toph crossed her arms. So a false piece then? Chi-Chi asked. Yes. Naruto looked at Kagaya. See? She gets it. I don't want eternal war no more than you, but your peace. It wouldn't have truly been peace. And your idea of peace is better. Kagaya shook her head sadly. I have seen enough of humanity to know the best-case scenario for your peace would be but a few generations. Unless you plan to live forever and make people behave themselves. If I did that I'd probably go mad from all of the, oh. Naruto looked at Kagaya. Oh. What is it? Have you overloaded your brain with thinking? Kagaya remarked. I think I get it now. It must have been so frustrating. No matter what you did you just couldn't stop people being people. I mean Sasuke annoys the hell out of me with his stubbornness sometimes. Wait, are you calling someone else stubborn? Having to witness people making the same mistakes and not being able to talk them out of it. I guess I would want to force them to act differently. Naruto smiled at Kagaya. God knows that it would have made things so much easier. I severely doubt you can understand. Kagaya shook her head. Although it does appear you have made some sort of a breakthrough. Maybe you are not beyond redemption. I was thinking the same thing about you. Naruto chuckled. I don't really get what you're all talking about, but I guess it doesn't really matter to me. Toph frowned. That wasn't as badass I was hoping for. I turned into a giant fox and launched an attack that could level an entire mountain range. Naruto deadpanned. Badass. Toph nodded as she actually started to eat her breakfast. Well, Chi-Chi finished her breakfast. I suppose we should make a start on that field now. Yeah, Naruto got up. I'll have a clone deal with the dirty dishes. Actually, Kagaya stood up. As I mentioned previously, I have been lacking in my duties as a noble and de facto head of this household. As such, I shall now make efforts to start fulfilling my role. First of all, there will be no freeloaders. All servants and guests are expected to carry their own weight. To reduce the already obscene chakra wastage by an unnamed member of this household. Unnamed? I'm the only person who can use it. Naruto protested. I will be assigning jobs to the other guests. Kagaya finished ignoring Naruto's outburst. The dishes shall be cleaned by. Kagaya frowned as she looked at Toph. Nectafree-san. Toph, just call me Toph. And what makes you think I'm gonna just do what you tell me? Because this is your last chance to stay on the exchange project if I understood Sunglass's words correctly. I care not for your reasons for being here, but as a noble I will not allow you to languish in idleness. I shall also seek to better your mind and manners. I have the feeling I should leave some clones here, Naruto mumbled to Chi-Chi, who nodded. This could get nasty. You know what? Toph scowled. What the hell? She deflated. Whatever, I can't be asked arguing with ya. If you're stupid enough to try and hypnotize the entire planet, I guess you're not gonna let my complaining stop ya. She stretched out. Could be worse, I guess. You could make me work with the copper quoting her DMN laws at me all day. All I gotta do is clean the dishes, right? For a start, yes. Kagaya nodded. Spider-san shall assist my servant for today and my servant. You are required to finish all work required to finish preparing the farm by the end of the day. Wait a minute. Naruto protested. Toph just has to clean dishes, but I have to get this entire place up and running. You have your clones and are my servant, hence you must be able to achieve at least this, not to mention you were planning to do this anyway. Kagaya glanced at Toph, besides. I do not have high hopes of this one. Ha! Sucks to be useful. Toph proudly declared. Being a badass means you don't do work. Bunny Boss gets it. I don't understand why she's so proud about being a nuisance. Chi-Chi remarked dryly as Toph leaned back in her chair and put her feet on the table, only for Kagaya to glare at her until she removed them. Well, Naruto shrugged as they left the kitchen. Everyone needs to be proud of something, I guess. Great, like you're proud of. Wait, what do you have to be proud of? Oh right. Your association to me. Great. Naruto chose to tune the fox out. Well, let's get this over with. He stepped out onto the farm and looked at the wasteland of dumped trash forming a familiar hand seal. Much later. Kagaya was officially stumped. She had expected some resistance to her plans from Toph, so when the Toad girl had not resisted, Kagaya had been wary but somewhat optimistic. She had left Toph alone with a sink full of hot, soapy water. Kagaya had added the boiler to the list of modern wonders that she loved along with cereal, and the dirty bowls, plates and cutlery from their breakfast. She had returned not 5 minutes later to see a disinterested Toph surrounded by broken plates and the dishwasher was on fire. After extinguishing the fire, Kagaya decided she would keep a closer eye on this troublemaker and mentally scolded herself for not seeing such an outcome immediately when Toph agreed to help out. Clearly Toph was going to fail every challenge so as to convince Kagaya that she was useless, but the former rabbit goddess was going to have none of it. She had decided to personally oversee her next task, cleaning the kitchen counter. It was a simple job that involved wiping down the surfaces that had been used. Kagaya still couldn't pinpoint the exact moment when it happened, but somehow barely a minute into the job, every surface was covered in rubbish and dirt. Somehow Toph, armed only with a damp cloth, had turned the kitchen into a garbage heap. How? Kagaya finally forced out as she turned to Toph. The two of them were sat outside of the house, to ensure that there was a house left when Chi-Chi and Naruto returned from the fields. I dunno, Toph shrugged. I never was any good with chores and stuff, but I'm pretty awesome at fighting. She nodded proudly. There is not being good at something and then there is you. Kagaya shook her head. Even my servant couldn't make such a mess and he is lacking in so many areas. What? You want me to apologize or something? Toph crossed her arms angrily. Fat chance. Not my fault that this house can't handle my cleanin'. Besides, just boss your servant around. From what I've seen, that's all you really do. Boss him around? Kagaya frowned. Yeah, you treat him like CRP. If you treated me that way, Toph glared at Kagaya, then we'd have a problem, you hear? And you don't want to have a problem with me. I don't treat him like. Kagaya frowned, waste. She finished tactfully. Ha! You really think that? Just ask the copper. She'd tell ya all the laws you're breaking, but at the end of the day she'd agree you're treating the boss like CRP. He's just too kind to say anything. Probably feels guilty for crippling ya. You don't know how lucky you are. Toph grinned. If what he said is true, if you'd tried that sorta CRP with me, well, I wouldn't have taken pity on ya for losing your powers. Fact is, I doubt many people would. Then again, I guess the boss overlooked me trying to kill him so. She shrugged. Maybe I don't have the right to say anything, you know. I see. Kaguya frowned. It is a poor noble who treats their staff so poorly. Maybe you're still pissed that he beat ya. Toph shrugged. And you're subconsciously? Yeah, subconsciously trying to punish the boss and everyone he hangs around with, including me and the DMN Arachnicop. I guess that is possible, Kaguya frowned at the toad. You surprisingly make a good point. I guess I will entrust you with a final task. Just run me a bath and try not to destroy the house in the process. Of course, MSTR, Toph bowed sarcastically before turning to head towards the house. Not like you did any work that coulda made you work up a sweat. Betcha want some sort of bubble bath in it as well. Pardon? I'd have thought that you would know all about bubble bath being a stuck-up noble. Bubble bath? Kaguya frowned. Well, it's like chemicals you put in the bath that smell nice and make you feel better. I think, Toph frowned. Never used myself, but I figured you'd like that sort of CRP. Just a hot bath will do, Kaguya frowned. With water. Whatever, Toph headed into the house. Wait a second, where's the DMN bathroom? She scowled as she wandered through the large house, checking the rooms. While most of them were empty, there were a few rooms that caught Toph's attention. This must be the Kappa's room. She walked and looked at the books on Chi-Chi's desk. Unsolved police cases. Human liminal relations. She snorted. What else did I expect? She glanced at the hammock. Guess she can't really sleep in a normal bed. Still, this ain't the bathroom. Toph left the room, but not before deliberately rearranging her books and paperwork, knowing it would probably tick Chi-Chi off later. Fight the power, she smirked and snickered to herself as she headed to the next room. This must be the bunny's room. She remarked as a small army of rabbits turned to stare at her with an eerie sense of unity. I guess I should just leave them alone. She shut the door and continued down the hallway. How big is this DMN house? In the fields. Chi-Chi frowned as the clones brought her items to identify. It was kind of sad to see the complete disregard that people had for the land, tossing away all sorts of junk on the farm as it was no longer in use. Part of her wanted to find the people responsible and make sure that they served a community sentence, helping clean the mess that they had made. It was something of a paradox to Chi-Chi. The few times she had been in the city, it had always been spotless. She had assumed that the Japanese were just culturally inclined to correctly dispose of litter, but it looked like all the litter was just put out of sight. Is this useful? A clone wandered up to her carrying a burnt-out laptop. No, Chi-Chi gestured to one of the two piles she was stood next to. It would not surprise me if it had been used in a crime, before being destroyed and dumped here. It's useless. Fair enough, the clone tossed the twisted plastic onto the much larger junk pile, which had several broken fridges and other large and ultimately useless housing appliances. Maybe the effort of getting them taken care of properly was too much of a hassle for people, so dumping them here seemed easier. Either way, Chi-Chi would mention it to Agent Smith at the next possible opportunity. She would try and ring her, but the number on the phone she had given Naruto always went to voicemail. Well, Naruto wiped the sweat from his brow as he headed to Chi-Chi. Looks like the fields are almost done. Shame there wasn't much stuff we could salvage. There's still the barns to look through, though. I only gave them a brief look over when we first got here, but there seemed to be some huge machinery and plenty of tools in one of them. Hopefully they haven't had any part scavenged. Chi-Chi sighed. But with this land being left unused for so long, I cannot say I'm too hopeful. Yeah, Naruto nodded with a frown. Some of that junk seemed to have been here for a while, judging by the rust on the metal anyway. I never did ask Ms. Smith why this place was free. Maybe it was too expensive to maintain a farm of this size. Chi-Chi glanced at Naruto. I suppose with your clones it will be much cheaper for you to run it should you wish to. That's definitely an option, Naruto nodded. There's no better kind of veggies than fresh veggies. Indeed, plus there is something satisfying about getting your food yourself. Chi-Chi looked at Naruto's clones. Oh yeah, Naruto nodded, I guess with your hunting instincts you'd really like that sort of thing. There is a sort of satisfaction I get when eating food I have caught myself, although I never was that competent at cooking beyond the basics of skinning and making a stew of the meat. I'm not that much better, Naruto chuckled. Rasengan taught me a few tricks to make life on the road more bearable. You mentioned him before, but who is this Rasengan? His name was VERYYYY and he was probably the closest thing I had to a father. Oh. Did you not get along with your actual father? My parents died the day I was born. Oh, I am so sorry, Chi-Chi bowed her head. I had no intention of causing you distress. Don't sweat it, Naruto shook his head and stared at the blue sky. I know they loved me and they gave their lives so that I could have one. Sure, I wish I could have spent more time with them, but we don't always get what we want. Anyway. He cleared his throat, VERYYYY. He was one of the best ninja in my village. There wasn't a soul who didn't respect his combat prowess and mastery of seals, which were a specialist art, Naruto added, seeing Chi-Chi's confused expression. Admittedly, he didn't make many friends with the women of my village, seeing as he was a self-proclaimed super pervert. Super. He got offended if you called him a normal pervert. Naruto had a fond expression on his face. But Rasengan was killed by a former pupil of his. One who had lost his way, but I was able to make him see the light. Still, part of me wanted him to reject my views. Part of me wanted to really hurt him for taking Rasengan from me. Naruto went quiet for a moment. But Rasengan wouldn't have wanted that. I'm sure he is still watching over you, Chi-Chi tried to comfort Naruto. Gods, I hope not, Naruto joked. Surrounded by all these attractive women. I can imagine all too well what VERYYYY would be telling me to do. Chi-Chi said nothing as Naruto stared off into space, a slight dampness in his eyes. Still, Naruto shook his head, as if trying to dislodge unwanted memories. I'd best get back to work. No point sitting on my backside all day. Kaguya would only nag at me even more. The long-legged Arachne watched as Naruto returned to his work, before shaking her head and going over to help him as he made his way to one of the larger barns. Man, Naruto coughed as they stepped inside, this place is full of dust. It must have been ages since anyone walked in here. Indeed, Chi-Chi frowned as she walked over to a large fireplace. Strange. Hey, an anvil. Naruto laughed. An anvil? Chi-Chi smiled, this must have been a forge, although it has definitely seen better days. Yeah, Naruto chuckled as he picked up a set of iron tongs that were little more than rust at this point. I don't think these are fit for purpose. Then this must be a furnace. Chi-Chi approached what she originally thought was a fireplace. I guess it makes sense. If running the farm was too expensive, you would try and save money where you could. Having a forge would help you build and maintain your own tools would be useful if you had the skills to make use of it. Hey Chi-Chi. Naruto stepped out of the shadows wearing a thick LTHR apron several sizes too big for him. You think it suits me? Chi-Chi snorted with laughter. I apologize. It is far too big for you, Handler-san. You reckon? Naruto chuckled as he took it off, searching through the pockets. These look like cigarettes. He pulled the packet out and tossed it to one side and continued rummaging. It looks like there's a bed in here as well. Chi-Chi swiftly clambered up the beams to the second floor of the barn. Oh neat. Naruto calmly strolled up the wall. Anything useful? Unfortunately not, Chi-Chi frowned at small bedside table. It looks like the previous occupant may have lit a candle, but never blew it out. She pointed to the pool of wax inside a candle holder. And? Naruto blinked. Leaving a candle running unattended in a building made of wood? Sure, the area around the forge is mostly stone, but this living area is still wooden. The chance that the building could be set on fire is quite high. So the person who lived here earlier was lazy? No. He lit the candle, but something likely happened that meant he couldn't blow it out. Or he forgot. Naruto chuckled. I know you want to be a police officer, but you don't have to see a mystery where there isn't one. I apologize, Chi-Chi coughed. I sometimes get a little bit caught up in mysteries. Still. Chi-Chi headed to the bed while Naruto rooted through the drawers on the bedside table. This bed was left unmade. Have you seen Toph's bedroom? Naruto chuckled. Not everyone makes their bed after they get up. That's true, Chi-Chi deflated slightly. Hey Chi-Chi. What's a condom? What? This thing's. Naruto pulled a small white box out of the top drawer. Well you see. Chi-Chi fidgeted awkwardly. Doesn't the box say anything else? Not really. Naruto opened the box. Are these useful? He pulled one of the sealed condoms from the packet. Probably not after all this time, Chi-Chi coughed. Hey, it has a date stamped on it. Really? Chi-Chi looked at it. That date is 29 years ago. So this room likely hasn't been slept in for at least that long, possibly even longer. Oh, Naruto opened the package curiously. Is it some sort of glove? Nah, it only covers a couple of fingers, although you can roll it back over your arm. Oh gods, I know what this is. Why, you do? Yeah. Naruto nodded. I remember watching someone use one. You do? Well, it was similar, I think. It was on a farm for a deer rank. I swear I remember seeing the veterinarian they called in use it when dealing with a cow. What? Yeah. Because she had to go up to her arm into the cow and poke something with her fingers. Ah. What, is that not it? I wouldn't know. Chi-Chi replied evasively. I do not understand how things work on a farm. Maybe Kagaya or Toph will know. Naruto rolled up the stretched condom and stuffed it back into its protective packaging, leaving Chi-Chi sweating badly. Still, you reckon this place hasn't been entered in 30 years? Indeed, Chi-Chi leapt at the subject change. All the tools are in bad shape, and when we entered it was almost like a forgotten ruin. Great dash. Wait a second. Naruto. You are not alone in here. Naruto suddenly froze. What do you mean? I'm sensing something hungry nearby. Where? It doesn't seem like it's a malicious hunger, so I can't seem to pinpoint it, but I'd advise getting the hell out of there regardless. I can take it. Maybe you can, but how about Chi-Chi? Ah. You're right. When am I not? Now where was I? Oh yes. Great. Naruto tapped Chi-Chi on her shoulder and jerked his head, implying they should leave. What is it? Chi-Chi asked as they stepped outside of the barn. I felt something in there. Alive and hungry, Naruto explained. Something's moving. Chi-Chi pointed to the door. Stay behind me. Naruto crouched in a combat position, kunai in hand. As the door opened, Naruto instinctively threw his kunai as a warning shot, scaring the life out of the small rat that had just peeked out of the door and causing the rodent to flee towards the forest. A rat? Chi-Chi let out a sigh of relief. Huh. I could have sworn the hunger I felt was more. Maybe the rats around here are more feral than I'm used to. Great 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 dash. DMN Kurama, you got me all jumpy. Naruto sighed but was interrupted by Chi-Chi's stomach growling. Ah, I apologize, Chi-Chi blushed. I guess it must be getting close to lunchtime, Naruto chuckled. Let's head back home for a meal. I would appreciate that. Chi-Chi glanced over her shoulder as they left the barn and started across the field, before frowning and looking again. You alright? It's nothing. Chi-Chi chuckled. Just a little spooked. Sorry for the false alarm, Naruto laughed. Yes. Chi-Chi glanced at the barn again. It must have been a trick of the light. She thought to herself as they headed back towards the house. But I could have sworn I saw something on the roof. Back at the house. When Naruto and Chi-Chi entered the main entrance to the house, they had expected to see carnage caused by Toph rebelling against Kaguya at some point while they were working. They expected ruin, a furious Kaguya and an equally mad Toph. As they walked in, what they saw instead was a smug-looking Toph and a different Kaguya. I didn't see this outcome. Naruto blinked as Kaguya energetically waved at them, leaning heavily on Toph. She had a distant look in her eyes and seemed to be staggering around as if drunk. I was expecting a war zone. Great great great. One might say you were expecting them both to be hopping mad. Great great. God damn it Kurama. Naruto mentally groaned. Look who it is. Kaguya giggled as they walked into the room. Look at her legs, she has legs for days. Kaguya burst out laughing and fell over. Air. Naruto glanced at Toph no snorted with laughter. Care to explain? Well. Toph grinned evilly. I don't take kindly to people constantly bossing me around, you know. What have you done? Chi-Chi scowled at Toph. Nobody treats Toph-sama like a bicha here. She crossed her arms victoriously. I got the idea this morning right. When you was bitching about drinking and stuff, I got to thinking. As you might remember from my awesome escape story, I can secrete a toxin. It occurred to me that maybe a healthy dose of toxin was what the doctor ordered to make the bunny lighten up. You poisoned her. Chi-Chi looked horrified. That is a violation of one of the principal laws. And it happened under my watch. This is all my fault. I knew you were going to be trouble. Relax Copper, Toph smirked. At worst my venom gets you really high. Apparently it didn't work as intended with the bunny and well, she sort of got drunk off it. Hey, when did you learn the strange clone technique Azura Inheritor-chan uses? Kaguya giggled. There's so many Spider-chans, she rolled around on the floor. Okay. Naruto walked up to Kaguya. How did you manage to get her to take the toxin? Well, the bunny was ordering me to do chores, then she wanted me to run her a bath. So I did. But you know what goes down so well with a hot bath? A glass of cold milk. You poisoned her milk. Chi-Chi crossed her arms. Shall I pack your bags or are you going to do it yourself? Once this is reported to Agent Smith, you'll be the first plane back to whatever swamp you crawled out of. I told you, she'll be fine in a couple of hours. Toph helped Kaguya to her feet. Besides, I ain't going back where I came from. My pride is on the line here. You know. Kaguya looked at Toph. You are really frightfully common and you make a mess of everything and you speak like some kind of thug. Kaguya paused in her thoughts. But? Toph prompted. That is all. Kaguya fell back to the floor giggling as Toph let go of her. Here, I've got her. Naruto lifted her in a bridal carry. Come on, you need to sleep this off. You have such wonderful eyes. Kaguya tilted her head. My blue-eyed servant. And you are delirious, Naruto chuckled as he carried her up the stairs. I'm sorry. Kaguya mumbled. Sorry that I was as a certain toad girl would put it, crappy rabbit hag. Don't mention it. Naruto chuckled. Tell me. Kagaya mumbled. Do you hate me? Hate you? I killed that strange man with my ash spears. The man who had the weird-looking half of his body. Obito. Naruto closed his eyes, trying to keep himself from letting his anger bubble up. It wouldn't change anything at this point, and it wouldn't be right to get upset at her when she was in this state. When you killed him, I was pretty pissed. He nodded. But you understand he had to die, right? He was in my way. Kagaya grabbed hold of his shirt with her lone remaining hand. He wanted to cause misery. He lost his way. Naruto frowned. But he found it again. Right at the end he found it. Have I lost my way? Kagaya asked sadly. I used to have everything figured out. Now look at me. Here I am stuck in this festival of oddities. I have no power. I have nothing. You're not alone, you know, Naruto smiled at her. We're stuck here together. Don't get familiar with me, you stinky servant. Kagaya wrinkled her nose. Have you bathed at all? Air. Well, I've only had a quick wash. That is no good. Kagaya declared. As my servant you are a representative of my divine self, so you must smell as pleasant as possible. I'll be sure to wash myself thoroughly later. Naruto chuckled. Good. A lady such as myself shouldn't have to deal with your smell. Kagaya mumbled as Naruto carried her into her room. Look at all the bunnies. She giggled softly. Yeah, Naruto had found himself facing many dangers in his life. He had stared down Kagaya at the height of her power, he had not flinched when he stood before Madara, and had locked gazes with the Kyubi no Yuko many times over his life, yet the unerring gaze of the many rabbits inhabiting the room was currently freaking him the hell out. I'll just put you down here on the bed. Kagaya seemed to realize where she was for the first time. Oh, is it bedtime? Sure. Naruto smiled softly as he put her down on the bed. Undress me, servant. What? I can't sleep in my only outfit. I'd smell worse than you, my pungent servant, she giggled. Naruto gulped awkwardly. Maybe I should get Chi-Chi or Toph. Actually, maybe just Chi-Chi. No. Kagaya crossed her arm across her chest and pouted. They are not my servant. You should follow my orders, you silly servant. She giggled again. I guess. Naruto's throat went dry as he started to undo her kimono, but no sooner had he started to lift it than he heard rather than felt Kagaya slap him. Ah, you are at it again. She grabbed her kimono, holding it tightly shut. You are trying to stuck me. What? But you asked. Naruto rubbed his forehead. No. Kagaya rolled around on her bed. Trying to see me naked? Were my ankles not enough for you, you perverse peon? There was brief flicker of pride on her face before it returned to her blushing outrage. I have no idea what to do here. Naruto blinked. Great, that makes two of us. Great. Well. I guess I'll let you undress yourself. Naruto tried to sidle out of the room. Good night. Good night. Kagaya tried to stand up before falling back onto the bed. I am a fully grown woman and will decide my own bedtime. As soon as the room stopped spinning, you'll. There was a most unladylike snore from Kagaya and Naruto chuckled as he shut the door behind him. Well. That happened. He returned to find the kitchen a battleground. Chi-Chi had Toph's arm behind her back and was forcing her onto the table while trying to handcuff the delinquent toad, who was lashing out with her feet to try cause Chi-Chi to let her go. Unfortunately for the toad type, Chi-Chi's arachnid lower half allowed her to keep all of her limbs out of reach. I apologize for the mess, Chi-Chi grunted with the effort of straining against Toph. But she refused to pack her bags in preparation of her deportation and resorted to physical violence when I went to pack for her, so I was forced to subdue her. Lemme go you DMN beach. Toph struggled to no avail. Let her go Chi-Chi. Naruto sighed. Are you sure Handler-san? Chi-Chi glanced at Naruto who merely nodded. As you wish. Can tell you wanna be a DMN pig with that police brutality. Toph rubbed her wrists angrily. Gimme a good reason to not smack your teeth out of. Your stupid face. Say what you will. Chi-Chi looked away. I doubt I'll have to deal with you much longer. Oh come on boss, Toph turned to Naruto. You know how much of a beach the bunny is. It was just a bit of harmless fun. You tried to poison a fellow exchange student. Well you tried to break the arm of one. I used reasonable force. Reasonable force my butt. Okay. Naruto rubbed his forehead. That's enough from both of you alright? First things first, no more poisoning people. He looked at Toph sternly. It wasn't harmful. But as you saw it reacted differently to Kaguya, right? Well I didn't know it was gonna do that. What if it had been fatal? Sorry, Toph grumbled. It's just, she doesn't show me any DMN respect. That is no reason to poison someone, Chi-Chi voiced her opinion. Second, he turned to Chi-Chi, much to her surprise. I'm the handler here, as you keep saying, so that means it's my decision who stays and goes right? Well yes but. Chi-Chi started. So I don't want you escalating the situation, alright? But the laws, Chi-Chi protested. Alright? Naruto repeated. As a police officer you have to use your common sense. Even if I had wanted Toph subdued, I wouldn't want you to possibly injure yourself by trying to take her on alone. Even officers can call for backup and they don't act prematurely, either. Understood? Yes Handler-san. Chi-Chi bowed her head, looking like a young girl who had just been yelled at. Right, Naruto sighed. To be fair, as the handler of you girls the blame ultimately falls on me. I should have left some clones here to keep an eye on things, but I made the mistake of thinking I could trust you alone. Sorry. Toph and Chi-Chi both looked ashamed. Good, Naruto's expression instantly brightened. So we live and learn. I hope we never have to have a conversation like this again. You won't, Chi-Chi nodded. Don't worry boss. Toph smirked. I learned my lesson. Next time we fight you won't hear about it. She has totally learned nothing from this. Naruto and Chi-Chi thought at the same time. Now that we have dealt with this. I have a question for you. He looked at Toph. What do you want to know? Do you know what these are? Naruto pulled the box of condoms from his pocket. Chi-Chi had no idea and I've never seen anything like them. Of course I do, Toph puffed out her chest. You are right to ask Toph-sama. No wonder that copper here doesn't know what they are. These are super secret items that only the most badass know about. Really? Naruto asked. That's right. Toph grinned as she opened one. It is, She started to stretch one out with a frown. I thought you knew what it was, Chi-Chi remarked. Lying to your handler without reason is a violation of article. I never said I didn't know. Just the first time that I saw one like this you know. Toph's eyes suddenly lit up. I see what it is, it's a Bakken sheath. I guess you could call it that. Chi-Chi mumbled embarrassed. See. Toph rolled it over her Bakken. This one is a little, weird, she rubbed her hands on her jacket. It has a, cleaning lubrication on it. Cleaning lubrication. Naruto blinked. Weird. You have no idea what it is do you? Chi-Chi sighed. Oh well if it isn't what I say it is, then what is it? Toph challenged Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi slumped. I don't know. I can't bring myself to tell them. I'll let them believe what they will for now. I hope it doesn't come back to bite me in the abdomen. Maybe I can put my kunai in one. Naruto glanced as Chi-Chi started choking on air. Are you alright? Before Chi-Chi could answer there was a knock at the door. I'll get it. Chi-Chi leapt at the chance to escape the conversation. She raced to the door and almost tore it from the hinges as she opened the door. Hello. She paused as she was greeted by an unfamiliar face. Hello Ms. A tired-looking man tipped his blue baseball cap with a friendly, if somewhat world-worn smile. Nice day today, isn't it? Chi-Chi looked between the new arrival and the large truck that was parked just outside the house. Air. Yes. Chi-Chi was unsure how to react. This was probably the first time that she had met a human who hadn't been surprised or keep looking at her spider half. He just met her gaze and smiled. I'm sorry, can I help you? I've got a DLVRY here for a LBR saver. The DLVRY man glanced at a clipboard he was carrying. Oh wait, that's the job title. I mean Naruto Uzumaki. I have some supplies for the exchange program. I'm guessing that it's from Ms. Smith then. Naruto joined Chi-Chi at the door. Hey, I'm Naruto. Minoru, Ken Minoru. Ken offered his hand and Naruto shook it. He stood a fair bit taller than Naruto and was considerably taller than the other Japanese humans that Chi-Chi had encountered besides Ms. Smith. He wore a blue shirt and pants that were branded with the same logo as the truck. Deliver quick? Naruto took the clipboard. Do you get a lot of business from Ms. Smith? Plenty, Ken sighed in a way that reminded Naruto of Shikamaru. In fact, now that he thought about it, he was getting a strong Nara vibe from him. He had the same tired eyes, complete with bags under them. Could you sign here please? He handed a pen to Naruto who scrawled his signature, his sloppy handwriting taking up most of the space on the form. Thank you. So you've got the supplies I asked Ms. Smith for then? Naruto followed Ken to the back of the truck. Yeah. Ken nodded as he opened the back doors of the trailer. That's a lot of boxes. Naruto blinked. The whole thing was packed full of large boxes and containers, with more than a few having fragile scrawled on them and more than a couple saying this way up, although a few of these were in fact the wrong way up in the trailer. Yup, Ken nodded as he signed the clipboard. Right, he glanced at Naruto. I was told you had the staff to unload this. Air. How much? All of it. Ken chuckled. Didn't you bring anyone to help you unload it? Naruto asked. Like I said, I was told by Ms. Smith you had everything you need to unload the truck and that the government didn't need to fork out more money for extra staff. DMN cheapskate, Naruto sighed heavily while Chi-Chi silently agreed with Naruto's remark. I guess I'll have to sort this out myself then. He summoned a small army of clones. You can make clones. Ken raised an eyebrow before shrugging and returning to filling out the paperwork. That's your reaction? Chi-Chi blinked. Don't you find it strange? I've seen all sorts of things, Ken chuckled. If there are such things as liminals, why not humans with special powers? In his defense, where I'm from his reaction would be completely normal. Naruto added. All things considered, it was your reaction I found odd. So, what sort of things are in here? Naruto tried to ignore the crashing sound as a couple of clones dropped a crate marked fragile and then proceeding to blame each other. Furniture, some electronics. Ken leaned against the trailer. Some food and vital supplies. We found the ramen. A group of clones cheered. So. Naruto watched his clones continue to empty the van with more enthusiasm than professionalism. You enjoy your job? He finished awkwardly. It's a strong one at times, but it pays the bills, Ken shrugged indifferently. I could never do your job though. My job? Naruto blinked. Well, being a ninja isn't for everyone. Ninja? Ken raised his eyebrow, but that was about it. I meant being a farmer. Farmer? Well, I guess I'll be one eventually. I'm just a host for a few girls like Chi-Chi at the moment, but I'm hoping to get this farm running eventually. He glanced at the recently cleared fields. You're setting yourself up for long days of strong work, Ken remarked. Although I guess with those clones of yours it might not be too bad for you so long as you know what you are doing. Yeah. I really need to get Ms. Smith to send me some books or something. Oh. Ken titled his head. You don't know how to run a farm. A long time ago I may have done some basic legwork on a farm, but I was basically just following orders without really thinking about it. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Well. Ken stroked his soul patch thoughtfully. There's another farm not very far from here. I deliver things there as well since they're a part of the exchange program, so I'll bet they can offer you some pointers. Really? Naruto grinned. I've always been more of a learn by doing kind of person, so if someone can show me what to do that'd be way better than reading books all day. Next time I'm there I'll ask the farm's owner if they'd be willing to give you a few pointers. That'd be great. Naruto nodded as the clones took the last of the crates from the trailer. Just one more thing, Ken handed a small package to Naruto. I was asked to ensure that you got this no matter what. What could be more important than food and vital supplies? Naruto wondered aloud. Knowing Ms. Smith, it's probably a brand of coffee beans or something. Chi-Chi frowned before realizing she was mocking the coordinator of the program and chastised herself. It's a book. An Idiot's Guide to Liminals. Oh, and here's a letter. Naruto then unfolded and started to read the letter. Hello Naruto-kun. I hope this letter finds you in good health, because if you were to die it would be really difficult to find a replacement. That's way too much work, so do me a favor and don't die, at least while you are still a handler anyway. The book I've sent with this letter should answer all your questions about the girls that you're living with and any possible future additions. I have made sure to put a few post-it notes to mark the pages that should be of interest to you. I've also arranged for a computer to be sent to you, so you can search for information without needing me to help you out. Hopefully you can use them or someone else in the house can. When I visit I don't want to have to help you set it up before we eat. Great, she isn't even trying to hide the fact she's planning to bum meals off of you now, is she? Great. Naruto rolled his eyes and continued to read the letter. Anyway, if you need anything, within reason, feel free to ring the following number or email this address. Email, 1shaygirl0. Phone number, 555-010-4837. On that note, I've set up an email account for your personal use. Username, LaborSaver October 10. Password, SmithIsAwesome01. I'll be seeing you later. Kuriko Smith, Local Coordinator. P.S. I sent some amazing coffee cakes that I found in this cute little store nearby my apartment. Make sure to have them ready for when I visit you in the evening. Naruto sighed as he waved Ken goodbye. I guess we should get to work sorting out all this furniture. He looked over all of the boxes he was going to have to go through. Even with all of his clones, it would take a long time to assemble all the pieces of furniture, although he would be grateful to have a real bed to lie in. Well, no time like the present, he muttered as he rolled up his sleeves and got to work. Ken smiled as he climbed into the van and started the engine. What an interesting guy. He chuckled before pulling away from the house. Some time later. Naruto nodded happily as he walked through the now furnished house. What had been a large empty room at the center of the farming complex was now a large living area, full of different seats and loungers to accommodate liminal and humans alike. The sheer number of them made Naruto suspect Smith would be sending some more his way, but he chose to ignore that for now and focus on the largest TV Naruto had ever seen. It took up most of the wall it was hung up on, yet was thinner than anything Naruto had seen before. Chi-Chi had assured him that such things were common nowadays. He sat down in one of the larger chairs facing the TV, letting out a happy sigh as he sunk into the cushions. There are still some boxes that need dealing with, Chi-Chi walked into the room. Including a computer. Computer? Naruto frowned. I think we used to have them back where I lived, but they were only used by the Intel and Medical Corps. Plus they were really big and blocky. Although if this TV is anything to go by, I'll bet you can get one so small you could almost carry them around. There are such things as laptops, small computers that are designed to be used on the go. This world truly is something else. He turned on the TV using the remote and pulled a lever that caused the chair to lean backwards. It's official. I love the technology of this world. I shall continue assisting your clones. Chi-Chi bowed her head. And then I shall get a shower, if that's okay with you. You don't need to ask me permission to shower, Naruto chuckled. We've been over this before. You are correct, of course. Very well. Chi-Chi bowed her head before leaving the large room. Oh, whatcha watching? Toph walked into the room with her hands in her jacket pockets. I have no idea. Naruto stared at the screen. Oh, just some anime. Toph scoffed. Pass me the remote. Anime? You don't know what that is? Toph chuckled. Besides the odd film, most of the TV I watched in Konoha was all about being a ninja and the news. There were a few children's shows where you would watch Treeman, hero of Konoha, defeat the evil of the IWA Boulder or the Kumo Bolt or sometimes the Kiri Fog, who were all really evil people who had no redeeming factors. Would Kumo, IWA, and Kiri be other ninja villages? Chi-Chi asked as she re-entered the room, having overheard the conversation from the other room. Yeah, why? That sounds more like propaganda than entertainment. I have no idea what you mean. Naruto crossed his arms as the program ended. What? No pledge of allegiance to Konoha? What kind of program ends without that? You're joking, right? Chi-Chi asked uncertainly. Oh, hang on a sec. Toph snatched the remote. Yakuza Onslaught is on next. What's that? Naruto glanced at the Toad Girl. He, just the best DMN film you'll ever see. See, it's about these totally badass brothers called Genji and Hanzo. They belong to this badass crime group, but they get betrayed by their eldest brother who has them killed, but the two brothers survive, then have to fight their way back to the top of their old clan, brutally killing anyone who tries to stop them. It's a classic. You gotta watch it. Hardly, it's just pointless fighting. If they had just called the police, then the whole issue would have been resolved in a matter of minutes, rather than an hour and a half of pointless killing. They don't even survive the film. Spoilers. Toph yelled at Chi-Chi. Now the boss knows what to expect. Way to kill the fun. It's all about people acting against the law and they all die in horrible ways. Chi-Chi frowned as she snatched the remote from Toph. Besides, we still have work to do. Geez, Toph scowled as she got out of the comfy seat she had sat in. I'll go set up that computer thing then. Naruto left the room. I think I've seen enough wholesale slaughter for one lifetime. He frowned as he remembered those who had fallen in the battle, before shaking his head to dislodge the bad memories and focus on his task at hand. Walking through the hallway, he made his way to a designated computer room, on the grounds that this is where the Wi-Fi router was. Naruto had no idea what that meant, but Chi-Chi was adamant that this was the right position for it and Naruto had not intention of arguing with her. So, Naruto looked at the several boxes before him. This seems simple enough. One TV, one. Well, I am going to call this a metal box unit and 2 plugs plus, a hell of a lot of wires and small fiddly things. How strong can this be? He shrugged as he attempted to put the computer together before stepping back and surveying his work against a picture on one of the boxes. That looks about right. Now let's see what happens when I plug it in and get it going. He plugged in the tower and the screen into an adapter, then turned the plug on, waiting for something to happen. A green light. Naruto laughed. It lives. He waited for a little while. Air. Now what? He walked over and pressed the power button. There has to be some sort of instructions around here. With a sigh, Naruto started searching through the boxes. Ah, here we go. Computer User's Manual. He picked up the large book. What the hell? This thing is huge. Wait, I've got an idea. Great, careful. You might hurt yourself if you think too strong. Especially when you aren't used to it. Great. Ignoring Kurama, Naruto tore the book apart at the spine into several equal sections and summoned several clones, handing each clone one of the pieces. Now if we all read our bits then you dispel, I'll have read the entire thing. I'm a genius. Sometime later. Handler-san. Chi-Chi peeked her head into the room. Are you alright? How are things going? He. Naruto was rocking on the floor, surrounded by the pieces of the book. Do you know what a universal serial bus is? A USB? Chi-Chi was surprised by the question, but then she noticed the cover on one of the pieces of ripped book. Have you read the entire user manual? I have. Naruto looked at her with empty eyes. I know the difference between random access memory and read-only memory. I know what a gigabyte and a gigabit is. I know what a gigahertz is and how quad-core improves computer performance. But I still can't get the DMN thing to turn on. I don't even fully understand the things I know. It's just memorizing statements without any understanding. Allow me to assist you, Handler-san. Thank you. Naruto stood up, giving her a grateful smile. So. I've got this green light here, he pointed at the tower. But. That's it. There should be some sort of installation instructions. Chi-Chi rooted through some of the boxes, before fishing out a much thinner pamphlet. Here we go. Okay, step by step. Ensure all electronics are turned off before attempting assembly. She turned the plug off. Step 2, check all items against the following list. 1 screen check. Do we have to do this step by step? Can't you just skip to the end? We were given these precise instructions by someone who knows what they are doing. Chi-Chi shook her head. If we are going to set up this PC, we'll do it properly. She finished checking the items. Right. Step 3, connect the monitor to the tower using the provided cable. Chi-Chi handed the cable to Naruto. This should fit on the back of the monitor and the same sort of port should be on the tower as well, okay? I'll see what I can find. Naruto peered at the back of the monitor. Oh. I see what you mean. He happily connected the monitor to the tower. Now do we start it up? Patience, Chi-Chi read the notes. Now we need to install the keyboard. Naruto calmly followed Chi-Chi's orders. You like this sort of thing? He asked as he plugged in the mouse. I do find something strangely satisfying about following an ordered list. Chi-Chi smiled. It is such an effective way of dealing with problems in easy, clear steps. Right. You can turn it on now. There was a crackle and the monitor turned on. It says press any key to continue, Naruto frowned. It means any button on the keyboard. Chi-Chi translated. Oh right, Naruto sat in the computer chair as Chi-Chi stood behind him, looking over his shoulder. Now what? You need to click on New Installation. Chi-Chi glanced at the book. What? Use the mouse, that thing there next to the keyboard, to move the pointer on the screen. Oh right. Where do you want me to click? Chi-Chi leaned into Naruto as she touched the screen where she wanted him to click, not realizing she was unintentionally pushing her melons into the back of his head. So soft. Great, was that a Jerry-esque thought there? What? No, not at all. Naruto quickly focused on the screen, although the soft warmth on the back of his head was a constant reminder to Chi-Chi's presence, although the arachne in question seemed fully absorbed in the task of setting up the computer. It was kind of endearing to Naruto, her eyes were sparkling as she told him what to do. She really seems to enjoy this sort of thing. And you seem to be enjoying it as well. Shut up, you DMN fox. It's not like that. I mean, she is pretty and all, but it's not like I'm going to be staying here for the rest of my life. Maybe, maybe not. Kurama yawned. By the way, Chi-Chi's calling your name. Ah, sorry, Naruto blinked. I was deep in thought. I know a username is an important thing, but you can always change it later if you don't like it, Chi-Chi assured him. Right, he leaned forward out of Chi-Chi's melons, although the spider girl didn't show any signs of noticing he was in her bosom in the first place, and typed in a username, settling for his name for now. Right, now we need to sign you into your email. Chi-Chi put her hand over Naruto's and guided him across the screen, explaining her actions, although all Naruto could think of was how surprisingly soft her hands were. Despite their strange color and more clawed appearance to his own hands, they were warm and smooth to the touch. Chi-Chi's attention was focused purely on the screen, so if she had any opinions about Naruto's hands, she kept them to herself. Judging from her enthusiasm, it was quite likely she didn't even register that she was holding his hand. Chuckling, Naruto tried to focus on what she was saying. So then you enter your password and, done. Chi-Chi stood back proudly. You are now signed into your email account. That wasn't so strong now, was it? No. Thanks, Chi-Chi. I really appreciate your help. Kagaya and we're both kind of new to the technology of this world, so I am grateful for your help. It's a pleasure to serve, Chi-Chi smiled. Hey, it's an email from Smith. Naruto opened the email. Dear LBR Saver. Hope you get this email. Got an important message for you when I see you next. I wonder what that could be, Chi-Chi frowned. We'll find out later tonight, I would imagine. Or maybe right now. Ms. Smith walked into the room. Oh, you're here. Naruto glanced over his shoulder. I haven't started cooking dinner yet. I'm not just here for your food, you know. So it is one of the reasons. I'm here to do my job as well. At least one of my jobs. Smith sighed. I've seen what you've done with the place. I'm glad that furniture was put to good use. So, have you got the grips on using the computer yet? He's learning very quickly, Chi-Chi nodded. Fortunately, I have some experience with computers. What the hell? Naruto yelled out. What's the matter? Chi-Chi quickly ran over to him. This DMN thing, Naruto scowled at the screen. It's implying that, well. Oh. Smith snorted. That's spam. Spam. Basically fake or junk mail designed to trick people into spending money or giving out personal information, Smith smiled. I am sure that you don't need any mail enhancements. Thanks. Naruto summoned a small group of clones. Go put some coffee on and start cooking. He ordered the clone before continuing to play around with the email account. Say. Do I have a bank account number? Why? Smith and Chi-Chi looked at him confused. Because apparently there's a Nigerian prince who needs my help. It sounds like he is in real trouble, but I can help him out if I give him my bank account details, and then he'll give me some money as a thank you. Later on. Stupid Chi-Chi banning me from the computer, Naruto sulked as he walked towards the dinner table where Smith, Toph and Chi-Chi were sat waiting. Ah, excellent, Smith smiled at him. I always enjoy your cooking. Why? It's nothing special. It's free and edible. Smith nodded, plus you make a mean cup of coffee. Thanks, I guess. Naruto sat down as everyone started to eat their meals. So, Smith sipped her coffee. Where's Kagaya-chan? I have a message for the two of you. She's sleeping after a strange incident that took its toll on her. Naruto coughed awkwardly. You see, Toph. Chi-Chi started to explain. Is this going to make me fill in some paperwork? Smith rubbed her forehead and took her glasses off, a dark look in her eyes. Probably, yes. Chi-Chi nodded. It would more than certainly result in Toph's deportation. She's making it sound worse than it was. Toph protested. Did Naruto-kun have any objections to Toph remaining here? Smith asked. Well, no, but... Chi-Chi started. Then that's good enough for me. Issue resolved. Her mood brightened instantly and she put the glasses back on. Another cup of coffee over here, Naruto-kun. But... Issue resolved, Smith repeated firmly. Well, I guess you'll have to pass the message on to Kaguya-chan then. Alright, Naruto chuckled. So what is the big message? Well, first things first, Smith put her cutlery down on a clean plate. Wait, did you finish an entire steak dinner that quickly? He glanced at Toph, who was trying to rip her well-done steak apart with her teeth and hands, and Chi-Chi, who was calmly cutting her medium-rare steak and trying her best not to reflexively scold Toph. We've barely even started. I'll answer when you bring those lovely little cakes out. Smith smiled. Man, you're something else, lady, Naruto chuckled as a clone brought in the cakes. So. Right, Smith picked up one of the small coffee cake and took a bite. You should learn how to make your own cakes so I don't have to keep buying them for you to give to me. I'm not your personal chef, Naruto remarked dryly. I was supposed to sort this out when you first arrived. Smith licked her fingers clean, having already demolished the cake, but I completely forgot, teehee, she playfully hit herself on the top of her head. You and Kaguya both need complete physicals. Why? It is the policy for anyone partaking in the exchange program. As it is still a new undertaking, there's the possibility of diseases being transmitted unintentionally, therefore it is imperative that a full physical is carried out so that any potentially contagious diseases are caught, so as to prevent transmission and mutation of the disease. Chi-Chi informed him. What she said, Smith nodded. So I need you and Kaguya to come back to my office tomorrow. I'll send someone to pick you up and drive you back home after the tests are completed. Okay. Naruto shrugged. What about Toph and Chi-Chi? Oh, they'll have to stay here. By themselves? Naruto glanced at Toph, who was now trying to cut her steak with her bokken, and Chi-Chi, who was using a napkin to gently dab at the leftover juices from the steak on her face. Can't you get MON or someone in here to keep the peace? Can't you use your clones? Well. I guess I could, but if anything happens and they get destroyed, I'll be too far away to do anything about it. I promise you, Handler-san. I will not succumb to this delinquent's insults as I watch over the house. As the most senior exchange student in the house, I of course will be in charge for the duration of your absence as per Article 1E, subsection 12, in the event of the handler being unable to perform his duty of care either due to illness or other commitments, they must assign a competent person to fulfill their duties. And I think it is clear to all gathered that of the two of us, I'm the only one competent enough to be given authority. Well. That law means another human has to be a temporary handler, Smith clarified. Besides, if you're staying here, it really doesn't matter who's in charge. Like hell I'm letting her be my boss. Toph protested through a mouth full of chewed steak. I'm not gonna sit back and let little Miss Donut Dunker boss me around. I'll kick her butt. If anyone should be the boss, it's me. I am not going to respond, as being the more competent person. I know that engaging you would only lead to increased aggression, which is the last thing this situation calls for. Fight me. Toph growled. And you want me to leave these two alone? Naruto looked at Ms. Smith. Hee, Smith laughed weakly. Well, most of the machinery used in your tests can't really be brought here, so. I'm sure they'll learn to get along. Seriously, can't you just ask MON to help me out? They are an elite task force for fighting liminal criminals. If they don't come here there could be a murder. Well. The truth is. Remember when I visited here with Tio-chan? Oh yeah, I remember her. Hey. He pulled a tranquilizer out of his leg. Don't even think about her. I've told you, she's a member of my team. Smith holstered her tranquilizer gun. Anyway, I kind of left a lot of paperwork for the other MON members and they, kind of are holding it against me so they won't help you out here. Their grudge is against you. I might have possibly told them that you refused to let me go in order to try and stuck Tio, so they blame you for Tio not getting back in time to help them. Why me? Well, it was the only way to stop them from being angry at me. Smith defended herself. Plus they kind of, want to help with your medical, so they might possibly be planning to get their revenge then. Thanks for the cake, bye. Smith left so fast Naruto could have sworn she left an after image. Great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother. Kurama finally finished. What's wrong with you? I'm probably going to die tomorrow. Naruto sighed only to be brought out of his musing when a chewed steak slapped across his face and he to see Toph diving over the table at Chi-Chi. And even if I don't, I probably won't have a house left to come back to. I'm going to bed. He wandered to the small area in the kitchen where he had been sleeping on an old sofa. That's right. I actually have a room now. Might as well make the most of it before it gets destroyed. He reached down for the sheet he'd been using to keep himself warm. What the hell? Something wrong. My blanket is missing, Anne. Naruto lifted his hand which had a strange sticky substance on it. What the hell is this? He wiped his hand on his jacket before staring out of the open window. Maybe some sort of strange thief. Well, if the memories of that certain talk with VERYYYY are accurate, I'd imagine you might have had an interesting dream, Anne. This is nothing to do with that. Naruto stormed out of the room, ignoring Kurama's booming laughter. The kitchen was a lively affair as the inhabitants prepared for the day ahead. Naruto was sitting at the table, one arm over the back of his chair and a half-eaten piece of toast in his other hand as he watched his clones running around and preparing everyone else's meals. As was the case yesterday, Toph was struggling to stay awake while eating her breakfast at the seat across from Naruto. Her head was propped up on her elbows and there was barely a flicker of sentience in her toad-like eyes. She had been chewing on the same mouthful of cereal for the past 10 minutes and was showing no signs of swallowing her meal anytime soon. Chi-Chi, on the other hand, was a hive of activity in the seat to Naruto's right. She was constantly asking Naruto what he wanted her to do in whatever potential scenarios she could think of, writing down notes in the notepad that she carried in her utility belt. And if the house should burn down? Chi-Chi looked at Naruto, not that I am expecting that to happen, of course. I trust your judgment, Naruto tiredly repeated for what seemed like the 100th time. I don't see why you're so concerned. You have your laws to serve as a guideline, right? So long as you and Toph are alive and healthy when we get back, that's all that matters. This is my first real role of responsibility, Chi-Chi nodded. As the senior exchange student, it is my duty to uphold the laws and morals of this household in your absence as stated in article. Listen, Naruto rubbed his temples, I think you and Toph are going to get along a lot better if you just chill out a little. Sure, laws are important, but knowing when to use discretion is also vital. Discretion? Chi-Chi narrowed her eyes. Are you telling me I should break the law? No, of course not, Naruto sighed. I'm just asking you to use your common sense, alright? Of course. You'll have no issues from me, Chi-Chi nodded. As a future police cadet, I will behave in a manner that is both courteous and above reproach. Sure. Naruto yawned as Kaguya entered the room, looking worse for wear. Morning, Kaguya-chan. That's Kaguya-sama to you, Kaguya grumbled as she sat down at the head of the table, this chair being small enough compared to the one in the dining room for her to be able to seat herself without Naruto's help. I apologize for my late awakening. Late? Toph grumbled. It's like 6:30 or something. Feeling better today? Naruto asked, ignoring Toph's outburst. He then proceeded to offer Kagaya a small glass of carrot juice, which she accepted. Why? Kagaya narrowed her eyes distrustfully. Don't you remember what happened last night? Chi-Chi asked. When this delinquent poisoned you? Poisoned? Kagaya glared at the half-asleep bullywug. She tried to kill me. Not kill, no, Naruto assured her as she sat down. It was just a harmless prank that will leave in the past, okay? If I was poisoned then it was clearly your fault, my incompetent servant. Kagaya frowned. Testing all of my food and drink is a servant's duty. I was busy on the farm, Naruto protested. You know, doing the job you asked me to do. Oh, if only you could create some clones or something, Kagaya replied sarcastically as she rubbed her forehead testily. She had had a slight headache since she had woken up, likely a side effect from whatever this poison the vulgar spider mentioned was. Well, I'm not sure the poison would affect my clones, or me for that matter, thanks to my, tenant. Naruto laughed weakly. I guess that would make me a crappy food tester, huh? At last something we agree on. Kagaya has the smallest of smiles. Hey, is that a smile? Naruto said, giving an exaggerated shock. Idiotic servant, her usual scowl returned and she sipped her drink. What did you mean by tenant? Chi-Chi asked curiously. Oh, well. Naruto laughed weakly. How do I explain you? Simple. Tell her that you have the greatest bijou in existence inside your head and that I grace you with amazing abilities, just because I'm nice like that. So tell her I hear voices that give me powers. Naruto chuckled. Well, when you put it like that. Kurama chuckled as he settled down. Back where I'm from. A ritual was performed on me as a child, he replied evasively. It makes me pretty resilient to poisons and diseases. At least when a certain fox can be bothered to heal me, that is. If it isn't fatal and you deserved it, then you can deal with it yourself. Kurama remarked. You won't learn anything if I'm constantly babying you. Ignoring the giant fox in his head, Naruto returned his attention to Kagaya as Chi-Chi tried to digest this fact. Since you were asleep yesterday, I guess you missed the DLVRY. Naruto jerked his head at some of the new furniture in the kitchen area. DLVRY. Kagaya paused in her drinking. I had noticed that the house appears to be fully furnished now. Admittedly not to my high standards, but at least we are finally starting to get somewhere. Yeah, this guy called Ken Minoru came in a large vehicle like the one that hit me when we first arrived, Naruto explained as he finished off his toast. One does not need to know the name of a courier. They are a servant and should be addressed as such. Kagaya replied simply. As with you, my talkative servant, they are merely people performing a duty, although one would imagine this courier performs his duties more admirably than you. For all your talk of being a good noble, you sure don't seem to treat the lower classes very well, Chi-Chi pointed out. On the contrary, if I were to address them familiarly, they would begin to think that there was a chance for a relationship between us greater than that of MSTR and servant. Kagaya calmly responded. Is that not the cruelest punishment, to fill a servant's head with dreams of a paradise that would be forever denied to them? This way they don't grow too attached to me and everyone knows where they stand. Did you just try to justify not knowing my name? Naruto blinked. I know your name, I just never use it in order to maintain the correct social distance between us. Kagaya explained. Then what is it? Naruto challenged. Azura's inheritor. Try again. Handler-san. Nope. It's Naruto. Naruto. Say it with me. Naruto prompted. It would be improper of me to fill your head with delusions of grandeur. Kagaya patted him patronizingly on the arm. Servant is the only name you need to hear me say. Whatever you say, Kagaya-chan. Naruto shook his head with a wry smile. That's. Kagaya cut herself off. I suppose I shouldn't waste my breath. Well then, was there anything else of significance that I missed? Oh right, Naruto nodded. We have to go and visit a doctor. We? Kaguya frowned. I am the very pinnacle of perfect health. She paused as she regarded her missing arm. Well. The parts of me that I still have anyway. It's just a checkup. Checkup? Well. They do all sorts of checks on you to make sure you're healthy. I know I am healthy. Kaguya replied somewhat sullenly. I don't see why I must go. Because apparently we need to. Naruto was somewhat confused. By Kaguya's attitude. I mean, I used to have checkups all the time. He smirked. I always had a clean bill of health. Except the time you nearly destroyed every nerve in your arm thanks to the Rasen Shuriken and the time you had a hole in your chest from a Chidori and the time. I got better, didn't I? Thanks to my other half, yes. I just don't see the need. Kaguya fidgeted with her kimono. No doubt they will try and prescribe some fake medicine consisting of newt's eyes and tails of rats and. Sounds like you've had a bad experience with a witch doctor, Chi-Chi remarked. Modern medicine is far more advanced. It's also a requirement of the exchange program to ensure that no diseases that could mutate and harm a liminal are present in a host or student's body as per article. Chi-Chi paused. Article what? Kaguya asked. Oh. I'm so used to people cutting me off. Chi-Chi looked embarrassed. Well, it said in article. Who cares? Toph exclaimed as she threw her hands up in the air. I'm sure it won't be that bad. I mean, they only stab you with like 100 needles. 100 needles? Kaguya paled slightly. Sounds like Haku all over again, Naruto muttered as he shivered slightly at the memory. Well, you need to get all your vaccinations in order, Chi-Chi admitted. But 100 needles is a bit of an exaggeration. There's also the BLD tests. Vaccinations? Kaguya frowned. What are they? Oh, it's where they basically inject a disease into you to make your body better able to fight it, Naruto oversimplified. They will infect me. Kaguya suddenly stood up and set her hand on her hip with a defiant look on her face. I refuse. It's a very weak strain of the disease, so the chances of you getting sick are slim to none. Chi-Chi tried to reassure Kaguya, but the former goddess was having none of it. Besides, if you want to stay here you need to keep your medical records updated. Smith added as she walked into the kitchen. Sunglasses? Kaguya jumped at the sudden arrival of the coordinator. How long have you been here? Naruto blinked. Smith smiled as she waved an empty coffee cup, which Naruto begrudgingly filled. Only a few minutes. I figured that, since I was in the neighborhood, would come and pick you up personally. In the neighborhood? Naruto deadpanned. We live in the middle of nowhere. Details, Smith happily sipped her coffee. Ah, that's the stuff. So, are you all ready for a day in the city? I am not going. Kaguya declared. I am perfectly healthy and there is no way you can force me to visit some charlatan who will claim he can cure all my ills. Okay, Smith shrugged as she leaned back in her chair. Wait, seriously? Naruto blinked. I can't force her to go to her medical. There was an evil glint in her eyes as she lowered her glasses to stare at Kaguya. But if she doesn't follow the rules of the program then I guess I'll have to deport her home. Good luck with that, Kaguya remarked smugly. Of course, if that isn't possible, she'll have to spend her time in a prison cell until we can. Smith continued in the same tone of voice, a dark, damp cell that's probably full of rats. There'll be no special treatment and no servant Kun to help you out. I guess I have no choice. I shall go to this check-up. Kaguya looked away, frustrated at being outmaneuvered so easily. But I protest strongly about this. Protest noted. Smith returned to her usual demeanor, her glasses back in place. So everyone ready to go? As ready as I'll ever be, Naruto glanced at Chi-Chi. Are you sure you don't want me to leave some clones behind? I'm perfectly capable of running this household, Chi-Chi nodded her head. I promise you everything will be fine. And you Toph? Can I go back to bed? She grumbled. I guess. Sweet. Toph slowly trudged towards her room. Well, if that's that. Ms. Smith finished off the last of the toast and drained her coffee before standing up. Let's go then. The sooner we get your medicals finished, the sooner we can be back here. I'm hoping that we'll be back for lunchtime. She turned to Chi-Chi, so be sure to have the oven all warmed up. Naruto shook his head as he followed Smith out of the house, Kaguya sullenly trailing behind them, with her army of bunnies looking just as reluctant as her. Naruto had to admit it was kind of funny, although he figured laughing would only make Kaguya's mood worse, so bit his tongue. There was a limousine waiting for them outside the farm and Kaguya and Smith climbed into the car, while Kaguya's bunnies started to jump at the open door, but were unable to get inside. They all paused to look at Naruto as a group. What? Naruto fidgeted under their intense gaze. Fine, here, he kneeled down and held out a hand, the bunnies using it as a platform to leap into the car. Air. Smith fidgeted awkwardly as the small army of bunnies started to fill the car. What are you doing? The bunnies follow Kaguya everywhere, Naruto pointed out. You can't take them to the city. I can't leave them behind, Kaguya looked shocked. Haven't you heard that bunnies die from loneliness? Naruto shook his head at Smith. Wait, how am I the bad guy here? Smith sighed. Fine, you can bring one rabbit. One. Kaguya frowned. How about the servant follows us on foot and I take them all? I can't ask Naruto to run the entire way, Smith rubbed her forehead. Besides, who's going to look after them while you're having your medical? You can't let wild animals into a clean working environment. Who knows what diseases they might be carrying? How dare you, Kaguya scowled. These rabbits are as clean and pure as my noble self. Even so, Smith sighed. I'll look after only one and no more. Very well, Kaguya glanced at the rabbits who looked at each other before the majority leapt out of the car, leaving a solitary rabbit that sat on her lap like a guard dog, with the princess idly rubbing its head with her lone hand. You may join us in this carriage, servant. Gee, thanks, Naruto grumbled as he sat next to Kaguya, feeling the burning stare of the former goddess and her minion. What now? How highly you must think of yourself, to seat yourself next to my noble being. Do you think yourself my consort to sit so close to me? Fine, Naruto sighed and moved to a seat opposite Kaguya and next to Smith as the vehicle pulled away from the farm. So. He glanced at Smith, who was sipping her new cup of coffee that she had gotten from somewhere. Do you personally oversee all of your charges? Of course not, there are far too many, Smith waved a hand dismissively. You're a special case though, Servant Kun. He is my servant, not yours, Kaguya remarked dryly. As incompetent as he is, he does have some redeeming characteristics. Oh, getting worried that I might steal him? Smith chuckled. Hardly, Kaguya smirked. After all, there is no way that he would abandon his duties to me. I am his noble MSTR after all. Without me his life would have little to no meaning. I really want to say something here. Naruto bit his lip. Didn't you say you were going to try and get along with her since this was mostly your fault? I really hate my inability to go back on my promises sometimes, Naruto sighed. I'm pleasantly surprised to hear you have some honor to your word. Kaguya nodded at him. Keeping to your word is a noble habit, and it is good to see that there is a flicker of respectability in your soul. Maybe there is some truth to your claims of noble BLD, even if it is a far less noble bloodline than my own. Watered down severely, one might say. You know, sometimes I can't tell if you're trying to compliment me or insult me, Naruto chuckled. So I'm choosing to take that as a compliment. It was a compliment, although the very fact you needed that clarifying makes me think that your intelligence is even more lacking than I first suspected. She paused. That was not a compliment. I figured. Naruto sighed heavily as he looked out of the window at the passing scenery. I wonder if Chi-Chi and Toph have burnt the house down yet. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 4. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author DJ Unk 101 on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.